Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Morning Comic Review. I'm your host, Dylan Wallace. Today we have a great episode for you guys. Finally able to get to this show. This is the first time in quite a long time that I'm actually recording this on a Saturday morning, which is cool. But yeah, just a bit of a crazy week. I mentioned it on the wrestling show if you happen to listen to both, but I had some work travel for one to start off with, and then on top of that, we're in the process of both listing and trying to sell our house and buy a new house. So between showings of our house and then also going to view houses, it's just been a lot. So I'm just glad I was able to read the books, get this thing posted. I don't really know if I'm going to be able to do Omegas moving forward until we're kind of through this season of life. So we'll just have to see. But for now, I got to the store on Thursday and I was able to read through, I think it's 4 or 6 books that are through the current week. Yeah, I think it's 6. And then the rest are going to be backlogged. So it is going to be 10 issues here, our standard format. And then we'll talk about, of course, the polls for this week. And then the polls for the following week as well. So I think with that, we can just go ahead and jump into it, shall we? And so as always, before we start with the polls, I like to do the top 5 picks of the week thus far. So, of course, I pulled this from League. And League has Lobo, issue number 1, as the number 1, with only 16% of the vote. So this is a tight week. To that, it usually, to me, means that there wasn't a major standout here. And usually it means that there wasn't an absolute that came out this week. Certainly none of the trilogy anyways, or the Holy Trinity anyways. So Lobo, number 1, 16% of the vote. Then you have Batwoman, number 1, with only 12% of the vote. Then the Ultimates, issue number 22, with 11%. Deathstroke, the Terminator, issue number 1, with 8%. And then Absolute Flash is the last one with 6% of the vote. That's Absolute Flash number 13. So of these 5, ordinarily it would be all 5 that I actually pulled here. But remember, I dropped the Absolute Flash. So I have 4 of the 5, which is great. Means we're reading all of the good stuff, and most of these I will be reviewing for today. So with that, the actual pulls here. These are the books that I actually picked up this week. We had 9 in total. So we had Batwoman, issue number 1, Deathstroke, the Terminator, number 1, Exquisite Corpses, issue number 11, G.I. Joe, number 20. Those first 3 are going to be on the review for today. G.I. Joe is going to be for a later date. Kill All Immortals 2, issue number 3. That'll be for a later date. Lobo, we're going to review that on the show. Ultimate Wolverine, issue number 15. We'll review that on the show. The Ultimates, number 22. That will be for a later date. And then lastly, X-Men, issue number 27. Read it, and we will review it today. So those are the 9 books. Again, 6 will be reviewed today. And then the remaining 3 will be at some other point. So I think with that, let's go ahead and jump into the review portion of today. So, like I mentioned, 10 books as per usual. If you're brand new to the show, welcome. But I got to let you know up front, I do spoil the heck out of these books. So if you don't want spoilers, it's just not going to be the show for you. But I'll give you my score on League. I'll give you the League score as well. I'll show off some of the artwork for the YouTube folks. I'll let you know whether or not this is a good one to get into. And then, I try to catch you up on the story if we're way far down the timeline here. So that's kind of the format for each one of these. I'll read off the book so you know all 10 in what order in case you want to go ahead and skip around. So first we're going to start off with Lobo, issue number 1. And we got a lot of number 1s this week. Batwoman, number 1. Then Deathstroke, the Terminator, number 1. Then Ultimate Wolverine, issue number 15. X-Men, number 27. Exquisite Corpses, issue 11. And then from here, we get into our backlogs. We have Transformers, issue number 30. The Seasons, issue number 9. Tigress Island, issue number 1. And then Saga, it's going to be issue number 52 as we continue through working through that entire series. So those will be the books. Most of them are pretty current. Obviously, Saga is going to be a little bit older. But yeah, that is the way that we will do it. So we'll start with Lobo. This is, the first 3 that I mentioned. Lobo, Batwoman, and Deathstroke is the start of DC's next phase, if you will. So we started out with All In, now we're at Next Level, and these 3 books are the start of that particular phase. So the way that I approached it was like, okay, let's just go ahead and read number 1s. If we're super interested, we'll go ahead and pull them. I'll just spoil it now. I didn't end up pulling any of these. Lobo was probably the closest though, and so it was voted as comic of the week. It's not my comic of the week, but it is the best of the 3 that just came out between Lobo, Batwoman, and Deathstroke. Lobo's definitely number 1. So with that, the score I gave it on League was a 4. League gave it a 4.1. And I was thinking in the back of my mind, like, the other book that I read, I'll keep that in reserve right now so I don't spoil what is the comic of the week. Why is it that it wasn't voted, even though the League rating is way higher than Lobo? And I was like, okay, it's an independent book. It's, published by Image, so I'll give that as a tease. And I think it's way further down the line. So just sheer numbers, right? Number 1s are always going to sell better. It's one of the big 2. And then you have another one that's, further. So if you're not reading it at that point, you're not going to vote for it, of course. But there are other books I think that were better this week. But this still got the nod for the pick of the week thus far. So anyways, with Lobo, issue number 1, obviously a great time to go ahead and jump in. For this book here, we have Lobo. He is out in the universe. He is just kind of pissed off in general. He ends up at a bar, and it turns out he is a hired mercenary trying to take out this guy. The book itself, very tongue-in-cheek, very over the top. Similar to Peacemaker is the way that I would describe it, in the humor that it's going for. So childish, cartoonish, a lot of older references, breaking the fourth wall a lot. That's the type of vibe that we're going for here. The art is excellent. I'd say it's way a step above of what typically DC does. From the level of detail, we're out in space, everything looks gross and dingy and disgusting, but it's the way it pops on the page is really, really well done. The cover here, I'd say, is definitely the cover of the week for me. I absolutely love this. We got Lobo sitting on like a mountain of just looks like skulls and like just it almost looks Mad Maxy is like the best way to describe it. So the king on his throne of just mayhem and wasteland and whatever else he's about to destroy. So that looks pretty cool there. So while Lobo is at this bar, he's about to kill this person who's a mercenary. He gets a call from the group that hired him. They say they've been bought out and the contract's been canceled, and the company that bought them out, they've summoned you. So he goes and he finds out it's this huge multimedia intergalactic company that puts on a whole bunch of movies and TV shows, and they're trying to chase the next demographic. And they say the best thing to do right now is to have a mix of reality with brutality. And so with Lobo, they give him an offer of, we just want to stick a camera on you, follow you around as you go around bounty hunting, killing people, because we think it's going to be excellent entertainment. It's going to kill in the ratings. What do you say? And so at first, Lobo's skeptical of like, I don't want to do this. But then they should have a whole bunch of cash in his face, and he's like, okay, I'll do it. So that is issue number 1 and sets up the premise of, I imagine, an adventure per week, or maybe you have a couple of issues that ends up being, one target that he goes after, all the mayhem, all the destruction that is to follow with him, fulfilling this contract here and trying to get these ratings up. So cool premise, but I won't be around for it. I'll go ahead, I'll show off the artwork so you can see what I'm talking about there. It is just really cool space, dingy bar here with a bunch of these like robots and different monsters, and Lobo losing his shit and fighting all these people. We get a very, very brief origin story about him as well. Text maybe a little bit too much for me, and it does one of those things where it's like in the vernacular of Lobo, so you're like reading through it, and it can be a little bit harder of a read, but like look at this splash right here, right, of Lobo like attacking with this chain hook thing. So that is maybe a little bit of an annoying piece. And then the humor didn't 100% land for me like the way that Peacemaker did. But overall, very cool book. I can see why people voted for it, especially of the other three. But again, I gave this one a 4, and then League gave it a 4.1. So that's Lobo issue number 1, and yeah, I'd recommend jumping into it. The next one here is going to be Batwoman issue number 1. So this is the second of the Next Level books. This one, I gave it a 3.5. League gave it a 3.7. Of the three, I'd say this was the worst of them. Just didn't enjoy the premise, and then the art. The art actually I thought was like a step below what DC typically does. So I was really surprised by that. Looking at the cover here, I thought this was the same team that did Boy Wonder. I think I mentioned it on the last podcast or the one before, where it's like, oh, it looks like a Robin book, and I couldn't remember. I finally actually looked back, and it's Boy Wonder, which was a Black Label book and came back out in 2024. But I looked at, the artist and the team for that. It's not the same team here. And I was like, okay, the cover made me think one particular direction, but then it ended up being someone completely different. And I think, let's see, Danny 2025. Let's actually see if that is who I was thinking of. I just can't remember the name for Boy Wonder. So let's pull that up. Nope, totally different person also for that, even on the cover. So this was Junie Ba from Boy Wonder, and so that's who I thought was going to be on for this one, but it's not. It's Danny is the artist here. So that threw me off a little bit as I was kind of reading through it, but even still, the story, we basically have Kate, Batwoman. She is in some sort of insane asylum, and they're like, hey, like going through a therapy session, right? So tell us what's going on. And she's going through this extremely depressive state where she had a twin sister when she was younger who died when they were kids, but some way, somehow, she just came out of a fight where she was fighting her sister now as adults, and she seemed to be under this crazy sort of spell. And we don't get the full story of what actually happened in the fight. It's like they're both starting to go back and forth, but her sister is like talking in all these different like rhymes and like lullabies and not making any sense. And then Kate, Batwoman, is trying to get her to snap out of it, but she's not really. And so we go back and forth between the therapy session and this fight that took place, which we assume relatively recently. And that's basically it thus far. We don't really have a sense of what overall the story is going to be. I imagine for Kate, it's, okay, how do we figure out, was it her sister, was it not, was it some sort of dream? She's dead, like how is she possibly alive now? Like how could she be fighting her? It reminds me a little bit of Phoenix with Jean Grey and her sister towards the end of the Phoenix run there. So it seems like it's going to be a similar book, but not 100% sure. This is definitely an issue in a series where it's like you got to get to issue number 2 before you actually find out what exactly is going on here, which is typical. They like the first one to potentially hook you into the second one, or if you don't have a good sense of what's happening, but you like the artwork and you like the writing style, then hopefully you pick up the second one. Then it's got you hooked at that point. So it's a tactic for sure, and it feels like this one's falling into that trap, but for me, it's just not hitting the way that I would have hoped for. I'll go ahead and show off the artwork so you can see what I mean from that side of things. It's like fine, it's just fine art. It's not the best. It's not terrible either, but I was just expecting more. So from that angle, I was a little disappointed as well, especially when I was coming in from the perspective of thinking it was the Boy Wonder group. And I did enjoy that artwork a lot. That one, not quite Absolute Martian Manhunter level, but very similar from a lot of different color contrast and popped off the page. This is just really just standard comic book art, if not just like a step below from a detail perspective. Like I think this first couple of pages is what really disappointed me. I was like, this looks pretty meh. So from there, then I just wasn't really impressed for the rest of it. So of the three, I wouldn't recommend this one personally. I think this is the one where it's like, yeah, no, this is a miss. Overall, not going to continue with this. I wasn't even going to continue with Lobo. But yeah, that's Batwoman, issue number 1. I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave it a 3.7. Then next up here is going to be Deathstroke, the Terminator, issue number 1. This is the third and final from Next level of DC, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1. I started reading through this, and at first, super confused. I don't have a lot of backstory on Deathstroke, and so it's trying to throw a lot of you all at once. Backstory: he's a mercenary, he's an assassin, doesn't spend time with his daughter, divorced, kind of the classic stuff that they're doing there. But he's on a mission. He's got a job. He's trying to break into this heavily guarded and armored facility so he can steal something out of there. On his earpiece is, I guess, his partner in crime. Think of him as Oracle, Alfred, but Wintergreen is the guy's name, and giving him instructions on where exactly to go. So they're connected and they're linked in. Deathstroke is fighting his way through, and he fights through. He gets in. He gets to the asset, which is in this safe behind this door. He opens up the door, and behind the door is his buddy Wintergreen, dead, seated at a table. So he's like, what the hell? Who have I been talking to on the earpiece this whole time? I thought that reveal was pretty cool. So now he's in this room. He sees Wintergreen there, dead. Then a whole bunch of guards have him surrounded. So he tries to hide behind Wintergreen as they're all shooting at him. So at this point, I'm like, damn, this actually seems like a pretty cool premise. So the only thing for me that I was like, I don't really know is the backstory side of this stuff. It was the way that they kind of threw it all at you, and it was a little bit confusing. I just imagine they unfold it and unpack it a little bit more as they go throughout the series. So not, I think, the best way of rolling it out for an issue number 1, but the premise is cool. Your buddy's dead. You thought he was on the call with you. Now he's going to have to figure out who done it, right? So that is the mystery that we have going through here. And basically Deathstroke is going to somehow, some way solve this thing, while also at the same time being framed for the murder, because all those guards showed up. They see Wintergreen dead, and they just see Deathstroke. They assume that he did it too. So he's going to have to clear his name as well. So that's cool. Similar to the other ones. Not going to continue with it. Again, Lobo was really the one that I thought would pull me in, not so much this. On the art side of it, I enjoyed it. I thought the art was good. Very standard DC. Nothing crazy, nothing over the top. Definitely more action-oriented. So if that is what you want from your comics, this is definitely going to have a lot of that, and I'd imagine it's going to be that way moving forward. Similar to Lobo, but I think a little bit more grounded in reality, just because Deathstroke is using guns rather than superpowers. So if that's what you like, guns and blades, and a little bit of espionage, then this is going to be the one for you. So yeah, Deathstroke, Terminator, issue number 1. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1. I would recommend it. It's just I'm not personally going to jump on it. So Lobo, go ahead. Deathstroke, go ahead. Batwoman, you could skip out on. So that closes it out. Next level. Now let's go to the world of Marvel. We're going to go to the Ultimate Universe with Wolverine, issue number 15. I was very surprised to see this score. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3. It feels like Ultimate Wolverine has just fallen off of a cliff, man. And so you get to the end of this, and it's leaves you off with a to be concluded. So the penultimate issue right here. And it feels like there's going to be a lot to wrap up in order to be able to kind of close this one out. But we're continuing our journey here of the first couple of pages being the origin story of magic. And that's the best part of the last 4 issues, I want to say, is you get these little glimpses. And it's just take that whole piece, and if you would have made that an issue or that just a one-shot, you would have had a really awesome book there. But then when you get to what's actually happening with Wolverine, Jean Grey, and Sentinel-1, and they're trying to find magic. They're basically trying to pick up a scent or a trail, and they have a faint sense of where to go, but they really don't. So they're kind of just wandering around aimlessly, and that part, which is 75% of the book, sucks. And it has for the last couple of issues. This one I thought was better, just because of where we left off from a cliffhanger perspective. But I understand people who are this is nothing what the book was like for the first half. What the hell are we doing here? It's not as bad as the one before, where it was you had the Maker on there, and it was the cover bait, and it was zero mention of the Maker, and it was straight up just a filler issue. It's not that bad. So for me, I actually ended up being at a 4. I could see a 3.5, but 3 actually felt too low to me personally. So the second part of the book, we have Jean Grey, we have Sentinel-1, we have Wolverine. They're trying to head to Latveria and that's where they think magic could potentially be. On the way there, they see like this zombified guy who attacks. Wolverine makes quick work of him, but it seems like there was some sort of blood infection that passed over to him. So at first, it seemed like he's gone crazy again and that the Winter Soldier within him has snapped and he's reverted, and now he starts attacking Jean Grey at Sentinel-1. But you start to realize quickly it's like, no, it was some sort of infection that was passed on to him. So Wolverine goes running off into a barn. Sentinel-1 and Jean Grey, they catch up to him. They capture him. Sentinel-1 in particular wraps him up in this, I guess, kind of tentacles or whatever that he shoots out, and has him cocooned and wrapped up. And so Jean Grey is like, I know what to do. I can burn it out of him because it's blood related, right? So literally chars him to a crisp so he's all the way down to his skeletal frame. All the blood is then out of him, and then of course he's going to reform and reheals. At first seems like maybe he's not going to pull through. Of course he does. He completely regens, and then after that he says, I know where magic is. I guess he saw her when he maybe died for a couple seconds and then came back. She's down in limbo. They're going to go after her, and now to be concluded. So that's the premise there. A lot to conclude with. Okay, I guess how are they going to get to limbo? They're just going to show up there and attack, and then, to bring it all home with how slow of a pace this arc has been is kind of interesting. I don't think it's going to end up well. Definitely not the time to jump into this one. And unfortunately, just disappointing how we've closed this one out. So, yeah. Ultimate Wolverine was looking to be the top two, Spider-Man #1 and then this #2. But now I'm like, yeah, it's done a lot of damage. And so it certainly is below the Ultimates now. And it's like, I don't even know where it ranks between Black Panther and Ultimate X-Men as well. So we'll see how it concludes before I pass final judgment on it, but just not impressed overall. Show off the artwork. Artwork's always been good. It's very moody in the way that it presents itself. So here's that, kind of beginning magic portion, and then here's where that zombie is. They get infected. The fight is on. Wolverine starts to lose it, and he goes and attacks Jean Grey, then runs off, goes to this barn, and then attacks in the barn. Here's where he gets cocooned, and then Jean Grey lights him on fire. Here is where he is burnt as a crisp, then he's regenerated, and he's like, boom, I know where she is. We're going to go after her. So yeah, Ultimate Wolverine, issue number 15. Again, I gave it a 4, but League only gave it a 3. Next, we're going to go to X-Men, issue number 27, and this one I do understand. I gave it a 3.5. League gave it a 3.6. This book, it was fine, but it is very much a filler book. So the whole gang is split up. We have Cyclops, I think it's Magic, and Juggernaut are on a ship trying to save the sheriff of the town up in Alaska. And it's turned into this like makeshift danger room. So they were tricked. They laid the bait. There's the trap. Now they're stuck there. Psylocke is going to help like a former ex-boyfriend or something. So she's out of the picture, but they set that up as well. And then Glob was shot in town, and they're kind of with the remainders that are back at the factory in the town in Alaska. And they set that up basically to say, there's a lot of tension in the town between the humans and the mutants. So if Glob was injured, one of them is going to lose it and then just attack the humans. So creating a whole bunch of chaos. One group separated in the danger room. They're trapped. Psylocke, who in particular, they're like, we have to separate her. She's like the best lieutenant for Cyclops. So that's going to weaken the group overall. And then now, the rest of the misfits. And it's really Omega Kid in particular, who's so pissed off about what just happened here that it's going to create more tension and issues. So a lot of chaos. And this whole issue is the breakdown of this team that was put together to execute these different plans. So exactly how I described it of those 3 different phases. Dr. Danger is her name. She hired a bunch of different psychopaths, each one with a certain set of skills that was able to lay this trap, basically. So yeah, that is all it is. It's just like, here's how the trap was laid, and the logic behind it. It was well written, but truly a filler of like, who are these characters? Why do we care? And I'm sure in an issue or two, you're not going to hear from them again. So for that reason, it's not nearly as good of a book as it could have potentially been. But here is that group, and you start to just get the backstory of everyone, and they're doing like interviews and things like that. Or Dr. Danger is with all these people that are incarcerated or in some sort of insane asylum. It's like, yep, you're the perfect recruit. I'll bring you in, as they describe each element of the plan that is being enacted. So here's the artwork here. Artwork's good. Standard Marvel. Nothing crazy. Decent action that you have going on, but nothing out of the ordinary. This is a nice little splash here of out in Alaska where they are on the ship. They have this huge like shark thing that's surrounding it in case they were to escape. So that looks pretty cool. And then this nice little splash page here where it has all the different mutants that are in the danger room right now as they work to fight their way out. So that's X-Men issue number 27. Again, I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave it a 3.6. Technically a part 2, so if you wanted to, go ahead and jump in at issue number 26, but 27 is probably not the place to jump in. Then we have Exquisite Corpses, and Exquisite Corpses is my comic of the week. This one is the penultimate for this series as well. I gave it a 4.5. League gave it a 4.4. So like I mentioned, higher score on League, but we're issue 11. It's Image. You're stacking up against a number 1 from DC. So I understand why it didn't get the nod, but this is certainly my pick of the week. We are very close to the end here. So a reminder of the series. This is Hunger Games style. The 13 original colonies are really 13 families that, you know, they're the 1%. They control everything. And then every 4 years they have a tournament where they select a champion. They get entered into this small town in the middle of nowhere, and they have them fight each other in like a battle royale style. The last one standing is the champion for that particular family, and then that family actually rules the country for the next 4 years. So, you know, it's one of those Illuminati, here's the deep state, here's who actually runs it, and here's how they do it. And of course, they're doing psycho billionaire stuff, and the whole town is still there. You have all the civilians there, so that's all collateral damage. They burn the town to the ground, and almost in, like Call of Duty Warzone style, they set the perimeter on fire and like force everyone towards the middle, so people actually end up fighting, plus the chaos and the blood and everything else. So we are getting towards the very end of this, right? We're in the final circle, if you will, or basically at the final circle. And so our main character, who is part of the town, she's trying to rally everyone. There's a bus there. Let's get on the bus and just head out of there. So as that's happening, we have the bunny, who's still chasing after some of the kids, go into like a theater, and they're able to hide, and the bunny goes up to the top, but his head, like the mascot head, comes off, distracts him for a second. One of the kids pushes him out of the top window, and he falls down and goes driven through a stake. So he's dead. He's eliminated. And then the other interesting one is Lady Carolina. So one family actually sent their own family member in rather than hiring someone. And so think of it, Hunger Games, District 1, District 2, right? Like people volunteer to do this on behalf of their district, right? They love to be like, it's a huge honor. Lady Carolina and the group from the Carolinas, they basically have the same principle of like, send your own in. And so she is squaring off against the mother, who's like part of the town, who just witnessed her oldest son was killed. She didn't witness the death, but saw that he's dead. So she's like, deranged at this point. And so they are in the town square also, and then they wander into a shop nearby. And it looks like some sort of like novelty shop, but there's like weapons in there. And so Lady Carolina starts to explain a little bit as of what's going on. She's like, you simpletons, you don't get it. This is all about like power, and like, starts to go on the whole soliloquy, and she gets distracted. And so the regular civilian mom comes up to her, finds these two like knives, and like sticks them through both of her eyeballs, and ends up killing Lady Carolina. So then the billionaires, back at the, watching this whole thing happen, are like, holy crap, like one of the family members that are part of this, Illuminati group has been killed. So she's wiped off the board. Super surprising there. I thought it was going to be her against Fox Mask Killer as like the last two, but it's not. So she's dead, which was a major, major shock. And then at the very, very end, it's Fox Max Killer, who's still alive, and it's Pretty Boy is what they call him, but he's got a mask of someone else that is wearing. Those are the last two that are going to face off in issue number 12, which will then be the conclusion, and we'll see who ends up winning this thing. So, yeah, it's a cool book. Super late to jump in at this point. Just wait till it's done. You go ahead and you buy the trade. Highly recommend it. James Tynion and Joint. You guys know I'm obsessed with him, so literally everything that he writes, like, I'm way into. From this to Nice House by the Sea, Nice House on the Lake, to World Tree, to The Deviant, you name it. He's written it. I'm into it. So yeah, Exquisite Corpses, issue number 11. Let's go ahead, show off some of the artwork here. Artwork's always been excellent, but the biggest thing here has always been the storytelling, from the different characters, the shock, the awe of like, oh my gosh, this is actually happening, and you just never really know what kind of twist and turn it's going to be and how brutal some of these deaths are going to be. So here's where the bunny goes flying through the roof, or the second floor, I should say, and he's killed. And then in that weapon shop here with a woman, goes, picks up some knives while she's distracted, boom, sticks him right in the eyes, so she's okay. She actually runs into her other son, who's still actually alive there. And then we got the final two. So Fox, Mask Killer, and Pretty Boy will be the last two to decide how it all goes. It alludes to there are going to be some more twists and turns in issue 12, so we'll see how that goes. Interesting tidbit, it's like it doesn't matter so much of the champion as it does the weapon. The weapon that makes the final kill is the one that wins. And what we know that is still in play is our main character, the EMT. She has the gun. The gun, I forget what family it belongs to, but I could see her making the final kill. And so technically whoever drew the gun is going to actually be the family that wins. That would be my guess as to how it all ends. But we'll have to see. So, yeah, Exquisite Corpses, issue number 11. Again, I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.4. And then we're going to go into our backlogs here. So we got Transformers, issue number 30. This was a cool book. I gave this one a 4.5. I was surprised Lee only gave it a 3.8. I thought it was a nice little reset here. Cover is dope as well. We have Alita on the front. So she arrives from Cybertron, and she's pissed at Optimus Prime. And she's so pissed, she starts to attack him and says, you're unfit to lead. You've abandoned all of us Autobots on Cybertron. You're wasting your time with this pet project on Earth. You're not focused. Like, we got a war we're fighting here. Like, you abandon us. Come back, Earth be damned, and let's fight this war and defeat the Decepticons. So she's all ticked off about it, and she just starts fighting him. And, like, he refuses to fight back. She's like, I'm challenging you, basically, to be the new Prime. So the fight goes on. Optimus just doesn't fight back and just keeps arguing that this isn't our way. We brought the war to this Earth. We got to stop it. It's our duty to do so. And she's like, no, our planet is dying. We've been fighting this war. Our resources are stretched as can be. Like, we can't do this on ourselves. We need you, Optimus Prime. And so Prime is like, you know what? Screw it. And he stops the fight. And he's like, this isn't the way of our people. He takes out the Prime Core. And he's like, offers it up. And it's like, whoever the Prime Core chooses is where it goes. And sure enough, the Prime Core goes to Alita, accepts Alita, and she becomes the new Prime. So Optimus is no longer Prime. He's just straight up Optimus now. And so everyone is like, holy crap, like major, major change of like who's the leader of the Autobots now. And so with Alita now being the Prime, she calls and summons all the other Autobots. Either come back with me or stay here with Optimus. But if you stay here with Optimus, you're no longer an Autobot to me. So that's what she claims. About half the group splits up, goes back with Alita back to Cybertron. The other half is staying now with Optimus to finish what they started here. But now he's not the Prime, so he doesn't have the extra weapons and the wings and all that stuff. So he's less powerful than he was before. Let's put it that way. Not powerless, but less powerful than he was before. So I thought it was a crazy issue. I thought that was that's a major plot point of Optimus no longer being the Prime. That was huge. So that's why I gave it a 4.5, but I guess League wasn't feeling it as much. But that was the whole issue. I mean, that is it. It's the fight. It's offered, accepted, and now the group is split up. So it's more of like, the main Autobot characters that you may be familiar with are sticking with Optimus. So here's where he offers the Prime Spark. Alita accepts it. Everyone's like, holy shit, this is insane. Make your decision. What are you going to do? And those are all the folks that go with Alita. They head on back, whereas Optimus is just... Actually, sorry, those are all the folks that stayed with Optimus there. So, yeah. It's a good one. I enjoyed it. Is it the time to jump in? I actually think you'd be fine, because I think this is a good breaking point of, like, jump into this. Now you know Optimus is not the Prime, and boom, you're off to the races. Whatever then unfolds from the plot, you're fine if you just basically start there. So I think you'd be good to go here. So yeah, Transformers issue number 30. I gave it a 4.5. League gave it a 3.8. Transformers still hitting for me. So still working. Alrighty, then we got the Seasons, issue number 9. So this one takes an interesting turn here. I didn't expect it to go this direction. So we have 4 daughters. I should start by saying I gave this one a 4. League gave it a 4.2, so very similar, but I thought actually League would go a little bit higher or lower because of the interesting direction it takes here. So we have 4 daughters, right? And they represent each season. So summer, spring, autumn, and winter. And we have this crazy carnival that shows up. They show this mirror to people. You see your greatest desire, and you're basically addicted to it. And it's a pretty nice analogy for our cell phones and social media is what you start to realize, the way that they're holding it up and everything. And so this whole town is taken over. People have all looking at these mirrors. But the turn that and change that happens in this particular book is now the town has changed over from being this massive carnival that has taken over to now everything is in the image of winter. So somehow winter has taken over the town, and everyone is now dressed like, acts like, and a subject of winter. And winter is like the queen of the town. So that was the massive change, because before it was just a regular old town, and like somehow winter has tapped into this mirror's power to where it is expelled itself, and now the whole town is affected. So summer has snapped out of it, and spring was never really looking at it. So now they got to figure out, how do we get autumn, how do we get winter? And with the town changing, it's way more dangerous. Like winter, very volatile in her emotions. She's an artist. No one can critique anything, and like you can't say anything negative about winter. Otherwise, it's like you go right to jail, you're exiled, you're killed. Extraordinarily strict authoritarian regime. And so spring and summer are trying to figure out how do we get to winter, basically. And they realize that winter is having this like fashion ball that's coming up, but it's invite only. And this is the only time that they feel like they can get to her, because other than that, she just stays in her high tower and does her art. So with the fashion show, it's invite only. They didn't get the invites, but they know 2 people who do have invites. So they go, they break into their house, and they basically blackmail them of like, you give us the invites, otherwise we're going to tell Winter that you said some horrible thing about her, and she's going to kill you anyways. And they're like, okay, fine. You take the invites and you go. And so now spring and summer, they're ready to go. And we get an image at the end of Winter at the end, and it's not entirely clear if Winter is aware or has a hunch that something is up. But you see Winter basically at the end, up in her high tower, and then issue number 10 is going to be them breaking in, and hopefully they're able to get to her and stop everything that's happening. So that's the premise. It's been a cool book. It's a tough one to go ahead and jump into right now. But I've been enjoying the heck out of it. It's been a fun book for me. I'll show off the artwork. I think the artwork has always been kind of a step above. And now with everything being winter and snowy and dark and gray, they still managed to make the colors really pop and have a nice like deep saturation, and it's almost pastel-y even in the winter form. It's still kind of like these pastel, like the snow, it's not just white, it has like this bluish hue to it, almost like a turquoise in it. And I don't know, they just make it work. So but yeah, here's at the very end where Winter is like looking down, and it's like, okay, does she know something is actually happening or not? Like TBD. So I'm enjoying it. The Seasons has been one of the cooler independent projects, and definitely sticking with it. Not a good time to jump into it. There's like a lot of crazy stuff that's been unfolding here. So I'd just wait for the trade at this point, but definitely going to continue with it. So that's The Seasons, issue number 9. Again, I gave it a 4. League gave it a 4.2. Then we have Tigress Island, issue number 1. So this one interests me. This is probably the closest to like a Gooner book that you can get from Image. I gave it a 4.5. I liked it from a comedy perspective. League only gave it a 3.5, and I can understand because the premise is like pretty basic. And if you didn't find it funny, like you're just not going to enjoy the book. So I totally understand that. But the way that this book is set up is we have these ladies, they show up to this dinner, and they're from all over the world. And I think it's in Hong Kong where they're at. And all of them have different reasons and motives to be there. And it's some sort of escort service that they signed up for. So they're either looking for cash, they're looking to travel and for adventure, and they're like, we got invited, so we're just going to see what this is all about. So you have this Russian girl who's like very straight to the point, like doesn't take any mess from anyone, and like constantly just keeps ordering vodka. And they're like, why are you here? And turns out she's like a silver medalist in the Olympics, but because she was silver and she's from Russia, she ends up being a huge failure and like hates everything. It's like crazy over the top stuff. You have this other one who's like this crazy dumb blonde and like doesn't understand at all like what all is happening. You got the other straight-laced one who actually seems like has a good head on her shoulders and is like trying to figure all this stuff out. But basically the premise is like, why are all these folks here? Basically explaining it's some sort of escort service, but nothing sexual, of like, your eye candy for the rich and powerful. So they and they have dinner and they cheers. And then the next thing that they know, they all pass out and then they wake up. But when they wake up, they're like moving, but they're still in the restaurant room. Well, it turns out the restaurant room was in some sort of cargo bay, and it's now being helicoptered and lifted off and sent to some sort of island. And so they land on the island, which is now Tigress Island, and this crazy commando looking lady comes out, and she's like the mistress or whatever, and is basically like, you guys are now slaves on this island and you'll do whatever we tell you to do. So they've been, kind of captured, and now to be trafficked is basically what we presume. And so they try to argue and plead their case of like, we're not supposed to be here, this, that, and the other. And it's like, nope, this is the situation. Here's what's going on. They get really rough with them too. And they're like, you guys are in a bad spot. So good luck in trying to figure out your way out of this. So yeah, we got to figure out like, how are these band of misfits going to escape from this island or take down this island or whatever the case is. And none of them have like particularly specialized skills that other than the ice skater of like, how is this all going to work? So yeah, it's an interesting premise, interesting book. And it heavily leans on the comedy side of things. So, and as you can see, definitely a Gooner book, like a lot of cleavage that is shown throughout this book. But I think it's a cool premise. I'm going to stick with it. I liked just the character development side of it, and just how these 4 or 5 ladies, like they play off of each other from like a dialogue perspective. So here they are on the islands, they're like arguing that they're not supposed to be here, and they're like, this isn't what we're supposed to do. That's where the one gets punched from the other mistress and is like, no, you're a slave to us now, and this is what it is. And so one is now like the main girl that brought her there, and they're like, how the hell did you like trick us? What is this all about? And the whole fighting and the infighting is about to begin. So I'm excited for the adventure. We'll stick with it. So that's Tigress Island, issue number 1. Again, I gave it a 4.5. League only gave it a 3.5. If you don't vibe with the humor, you're probably not going to like it. From an art perspective, it's good. Yeah, it's just kind of good standard stuff. From the color and the saturation, maybe could be a step above, but from the art design itself and the way that they have the island designed, I think it's all pretty cool. So yeah, that is Tigress Island. And then we're going to go with Saga, issue number 52. So of course, loving this. Lee gave it a 4.6. I gave it a 4. So issue 52 is like a continuation of like our arc where the reporters, they want to tell Marco and Alana's story. They decide against it. because if they were going to tell their story, they would provide immunity in a way of a witness protection program through this crazy expensive spell that would change how they look. They decide not to do it, but Prince Robot and his lover are like, hey, we have just an interesting enough story, and we will take that. But Squire, his son, doesn't want to leave the group, and so he ends up running off. And so this issue is that, running off, but he catches up to the Diplomat and the Will, who are on the island trying to get towards Marco and Alana. So Squire is caught by this crazy looking alien thing that looks like it's going to suck him into the ground. But the Diplomat then shows up, takes out the different severs and arms of this beast, saves Squire, but now the Diplomat knows who Prince Robot's son is. And so Squire's like hugging her because he's none the wiser. But us as the reader is like, this woman is very dangerous and is going to use you as collateral. So not good at all. So that's the one part. Then the next part is Prince Robot and the others are all fanned out trying to find Squire. And so Prince Robot then runs into the Will. So the Will is basically like going to kill him because the Will, or Prince Robot I should say, killed his girlfriend, the Stalk, way back, many issues ago. And the Will hasn't forgotten that. And so Prince Robot's like pleading with him. And throughout the issue too, it kind of drops little hints of like Prince Robot's still an asshole at the end of the day. So Prince Robot then says to the Will, you and I can come up with a deal to where it saves me and my folks, and then throws effectively Alana and Marco under the bus. So it's like, damn, is he really about to betray them again so he could get this spell, leave, and then he's gone? We'll see. So it seemed like Prince Robot was finally converted to being a good guy, but still kind of a dirtbag at the end of the day. So we'll have to see. But that was the cliffhanger of like, it seems like Prince Robot's going to sell them out yet again. Let's go ahead and show off the artwork as per usual. We got to be careful with Saga because you just never know how it's going to go. Yeah. So here is the group here as they are trying to figure out how do we find Squire. Squire is eaten by this crazy looking monster. You can see the innuendo from the monster of what it actually looks like. But boom, he is saved. And then Prince Robot and the Will, this is where they meet each other, and Prince Robot is basically like, yep, I can offer you a trade if you will let me live. And on the screen of his face is basically Hazel, Alana and Marco's child, which is the child, of course, of a wing and a horned person together. Crazy stuff. So, yep, looking forward to wrapping this one up. I think we got 2 more issues in this volume. Actually, I don't want to spoil myself, so I'm not going to flip through. But I think it's 2 more, and then we're on to volume 10. So we're getting pretty close here. Let's see. If we click back on this one. Oh, don't want to do that. Yeah, 2 more. So you got 53 and then 54, and then that'll be the end. So yeah, that's it. And those are the books. Let me make sure I didn't screw up the audio recording. I did not. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and recap everything real quick. So the 10 books that we just reviewed, we had Lobo issue number 1. A nice little start here with Lobo on his adventure as he goes off doing mercenary things, and they'll film it. Batwoman issue number 1, a bit of a miss. We got Kate trying to figure out why her sister is still alive and they were fighting. Deathstroke, the Terminator issue number 1. His partner, Wintergreen, is dead and Deathstroke has to get to the bottom of it. Ultimate Wolverine issue number 15. We got Logan getting infected, but now he knows where magic is. X-Men number 27. Just get a backstory on how the Danger Room is set up with a bunch of villains. Exquisite Corpses issue number 11. We're in the final circle now. We've got just 2 of the champions still alive. Transformers issue number 30. We have Alita, who has now become the new Prime. The Seasons issue number 9. Winter's in control of the town, and it looks like spring and summer got a way to get to her. Tigress Island issue number 1. We got 5 ladies who are stuck being trafficked on this island. How are they going to get out of it? And then Saga issue number 52. The Diplomat now has Squire, and Prince Robot and the Will are going to make some sort of deal to potentially betray Alana, Marco, and Hazel. So those are the 10 books, folks. I hope you enjoyed that. We'll go ahead and wrap it up real quick with the polls for next week. locked and loaded with 10? Yes, 10 books in total. So we got a full episode here. I don't think I'll be able to get to all of them, but time will tell. We have Absolute Martian Manhunter issue number 10, Absolute Wonder Woman issue number 18. Then we got DC and Marvel mixing it up again. This one is going to be Superman, Spider-Man issue number 1. Technically, the DC book is going to come out. This feels like an even trade. Superman and Spider-Man, finally. Not freaking Deadpool and Batman. Like, what were we doing before? So that should be cool. Then Hyde Street, issue number 11. Iron Man, number 3. Minor Arcana, issue number 15. Skinbreaker, number 7. Ultimate Endgame, number 3. Void Rivals, 28. And then World Tree, issue number 19. So those will be the 10 books for next week. I think after that it tapers off a little bit, and yeah, we'll just keep this thing going. So just bear with me in this like crazy season of life. I don't know if I'll be able to do an Omega or not. I want to, but it's just a lot of chaotic things all happening at once. You know, the sooner it all kind of works out with buying and selling, the sooner we can get back to some normalcy, but you know, kind of TBD. So anyways, with all that, we'll wrap it up. Thanks again for tuning in. If you'd like to check out the show on the social medias, check out the description below. And then if you'd like to support monetarily as well, you can head to buymeacoffee.com/SaturdayMorningReview. All proceeds would go towards buying some of these books. So any way that you could help out would be greatly appreciated. We'll close it out. Thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you guys in the next one.
Go, 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 go. This has been a DMW production. Thanks for stopping by.